The day my father died, the entire village went silent. Not the normal silence that comes when people are mourning. No. This was the kind of silence that makes you feel like something else is coming. Something heavy. Something waiting. Our village, Umudike, had seen many funerals. But not like my father's. Because my father was not just a man. He was the man who left the village 25 years ago with nothing. And returned with Lagos. Not the city itself. But everything the city could give. Money. Power. Connections. And a mansion so large that people in the village whispered about it like it was a palace. They called it the house that Lagos built. That house was the reason half the people at the funeral had come. The other half came for something else. The will. Because in our culture, when a wealthy man dies, the real burial happens after the will is read. And that was when the first strange thing happened. My uncle Chinedu arrived late. Very late. Almost as if he had been waiting for something. He walked slowly through the crowd, wearing expensive sunglasses. Even though the sky was cloudy. Even though the air smelled like rain. But what bothered me wasn't the sunglasses. It was the smile. Uncle Chinedu was smiling at my father's funeral. And that was the moment something inside me whispered. Something is wrong. The burial ended at sunset. But nobody went home. Because the lawyer from Lagos had arrived. A tall man with a leather briefcase and eyes that looked like they had seen too many family arguments. He stood beside my father's grave and cleared his throat. "My name is Barrister Okoye," he said. "I am here to execute the last will and testament of the late Chief Daniel Okafor." The crowd leaned closer. Even the elders moved forward. My mother stood beside me, her hands shaking. I squeezed them gently. Everything was going to be fine. Or at least, I thought it would be. Barrister Okoye looked at the crowd and said something that made everyone freeze. "The will not be read here." Murmurs spread instantly. "It will be read tomorrow morning." He paused. "In Lagos." Everyone started talking at once. Why Lagos? Why not the village? Why tomorrow? But Barrister Okoye closed his briefcase and said only one thing. Because that was the chief's instruction. Then he walked away. And that was when Uncle Chinedu smiled again. That night, nobody in our family slept. Because deep down, we all felt the same thing. Something about this will was about to change everything. But none of us knew that by the next evening, our family would already be broken. We arrived in Lagos the next morning. My father's mansion stood in Lekki Phase 1 like a monument. Tall white walls, black iron gates, palm trees that looked like soldiers guarding a king's palace. This house had always been our pride. The proof that a man from a small village could conquer the city. But that morning, the house felt different. Cold. Quiet. Watching us. The entire family gathered in the main living room. My mother. My younger sister Ada. Uncle Chinedu. 3 other uncles. 2 aunties. And Barrister Okoye. The lawyer placed a thick envelope on the glass table. "This," he said calmly, "contains the final will of Chief Daniel Okafor." The room went silent. Then he opened the envelope. The first line he read sounded normal. "My beloved wife, Grace Okafor, shall inherit the family home in the village." My mother nodded slowly. That made sense. Then he continued. "My daughter Ada shall receive the farmland and agricultural investments." Ada smiled softly. Still normal. Then the lawyer paused. He adjusted his glasses. "And read the next line. My son." The room froze. Because my father had only 2 children. Ada. And me. But the lawyer didn't say my name. He said something else. "My son, David Okafor, shall inherit the Lagos mansion and all business assets." My heart stopped. Because there was only one problem. There was no David in our family. But someone in that room already knew exactly who David was. The room exploded. Everyone started shouting at once. "Who is David? Is this a mistake? Barrister, explain yourself." But Barrister Okoye raised his hand calmly. "There is no mistake. Then he looked toward the door and said quietly, "You can come in now." The door opened slowly. Footsteps echoed across the marble floor, and a young man walked into the room. He looked about 22, tall, dark, confident, and wearing a calm expression that made my stomach tighten. Because the moment he stepped into the light, I saw it. He had my father's face. "My name is David Okafor," he said. "And according to the will." He looked around the room. "This house belongs to me." My mother collapsed into a chair. Ada started crying. And Uncle Chinedu laughed. But the worst part wasn't that David existed. The worst part was that my father had hidden him for 22 years. The lawyer explained everything. 22 years ago, before my father became rich, he had lived in Lagos as a struggling mechanic. That was when he met a woman named Amaka. They had a son, David. But when my father became wealthy, he married my mother instead. And David disappeared from the story. Or so we thought. What about us? Ada cried. We are his real children. Barrister Okoye shook his head slowly. You are all his children. Then he said something strange. The chief wrote a note to be read after the will. He unfolded a second paper and began to read. If you are hearing this message, it means my family is already angry. The room was silent. I made a mistake many years ago, the letter continued. I abandoned my first son because I was afraid of scandal. My mother covered her mouth. But a man cannot run from his blood forever. Then the final line came. And the person who helped me hide this secret was my brother Chinedu. The room turned toward Uncle Chinedu. His smile vanished instantly. Because now, the real betrayal was just beginning. The argument lasted for hours. My mother wanted the will challenged. My uncles wanted the mansion sold. David refused. This house belongs to me, he repeated. But something about David's confidence bothered me. He wasn't acting like someone who had just discovered he was rich. He acted like someone who had been waiting. Then he said something that shocked everyone. I didn't come here for the house. The room froze. I came for the truth. David looked directly at Uncle Chinedu. You're the reason my mother died. Gasps filled the room. And suddenly, the inheritance wasn't the biggest secret anymore. David's voice was calm. Too calm. My mother died 5 years ago, he said. But before she died, she told me everything. According to David, my father had wanted to bring him back into the family years ago. But someone kept stopping him. Someone who feared losing power. That person, David said slowly, was Uncle Chinedu. The room erupted again. Uncle Chinedu stood up suddenly. You believe this boy over your own blood? But no one answered. Because we all remembered the letter. And then David said something that made the entire room go silent. My father didn't die naturally. The lawyer looked shocked. Careful what you're saying, he warned. But David opened a small envelope. Inside were medical documents. My father was poisoned, David said. And someone in this family did it. Then he placed the papers on the table. Fingerprints, phone records, bank transfers, all pointing to one person. Uncle Chinedu. Uncle Chinedu ran. But he didn't get far. Because the police were already waiting outside. And that was the moment we realized something terrifying. Barrister Okoye sighed deeply. There is one last instruction from your father. He opened a final envelope. My family must decide what to do with the mansion. Then he read the last line. If my children cannot live in peace, sell the house and give the money to charity. The mansion that destroyed our family would never belong to any of us. Sometimes, the most dangerous inheritance is not money. It is the secrets we leave behind. If you believe stories still carry fire, if you believe wisdom survives in whispers, then like, subscribe, and share, so this flame never dies.